The ancient people known as the Kurds are scattered throughout the Middle East. They've suffered extreme persecution over the centuries, including a poison gas attack launched against them by Saddam Hussein in March 1988. 12,000 Kurds died an agonizing death. They now control this region in northeastern Syria, and Iraqi Kurdistan has welcomed Christians fleeing ISIS atrocities. Kurds long for a country they can call their own.
This is a dream of every Kurdish citizens. Every ethnic and every nationality have a right to have their own independent states.
A referendum on independence could soon be voted on by Iraqi Kurds, but Iran and Turkey oppose the creation of a Kurdish country. The Kurdish Workers' Party has fought Turkey for the past 30 years. Turkey views the Kurds as a greater threat than the Islamic State jihadists. Instead of fighting ISIS, the Turkish Air Force recently bombed Kurdish fighters near the border.
The Turks are acting with the slogan, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." So ISIS is now, in that case, a friend of Turkey.
And that further complicates U.S. efforts to stop ISIS. In the book, The Miracle of the Kurds, best-selling author Stephen Mansfield explains why the Kurds need Western support and how a Kurdish nation could serve as a model for the future of the Middle East.
Well, Stephen Mansfield is joining us now to talk about his book. It's called The Miracle of the Kurds. Stephen, good to have you with us.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
You have a love affair with these people. It just screams forth from this book. I love this thing that they wanted to go to a town where they had achy, breaky hearts. Tell about that.
Oh, there's a story told about how the Kurds first got to Nashville. And it is that a Kurdish chieftain heard the song Achy Breaky Heart playing on American radio and saw his grandchildren dancing. And so when he told the American government, "I want to go where that music lives." But it's probably not true, but it's a good story anyway.
It's a wonderful story. All right, the origin, you pointed out, you know, Saladin, as you pointed out, who was so active in the Crusades, a great leader, was a Kurd. And also, I believe you said that Cyrus was a Kurd, and the Kurds take their origin from the Medes and the Persians. Tell us about that.
Well, the Kurds absolutely see themselves as the descendants of the ancient Medes we know from our Bibles. So their television station in Europe is Mede TV. Their national anthem declares, "We are the Medes." So they see themselves in those terms. What's important for us to know is that they're not Arabs. They don't come from that ethnicity, they don't come from that background, and yet since World War I, they've always been subdivided in a way that made them a minority people within Arab countries.
Woodrow Wilson, and again you pointed out in your excellent book, that he said that all people groups should have autonomy, and the Kurds, of course, were that group, among the groups. What did they do? Were they fighting among themselves that kind of turned the Western powers off?
They descended into religious civil war just around the time of World War I. So even though Woodrow Wilson was talking about autonomy for them specifically, European powers bartered those powers and those rights away in the Treaty of Lausanne. And so the Kurds ended up being bundled into the newly minted country of Iraq. So they were made a minority people, not Arab, within a broader Arab country, and they were persecuted from that time all the way up to the time of Saddam.
Well, Saddam gassed them. It was hideous what he did to them.
Saddam probably killed almost 1 million Kurds. He decimated almost 4,000 villages. And as you well know, because you reported on it so beautifully here, Halabja was the great gassing experience in which almost 15,000 people were killed in a matter of 2 hours. It was horrific. The only good thing about all of these atrocities against the Kurds is that it has finally brought them to international attention. And now that they're on the forefront against ISIS, the Kurds are being understood a little bit better.
Your book is The Miracle of the Kurds, and you're talking about Erbil. And I mean, here Iraq is in shambles, torn all to pieces. And they put in laws in the Kurdish stand that are so enlightened. Where did they learn about the freedom as they put into place?
Well, the Kurds are people who love knowledge. Their leaders are educated in the West to a large extent. And so, for example, I think what you're alluding to, and I love it as well, the 2006 Economic Investment Law essentially welcomed Western investment on an astonishingly open and free market basis. I would use the word libertarian. If you were to invest in Kurdistan, you'd have equal rights as a citizen of Kurdistan. There would be tax breaks. In other words, they knew they weren't going to become viable as a nation, which is what they hoped for, unless they welcomed foreign investment.
Well, the money poured. I mean, they gave tax holiday, 10-year tax holidays and stuff, and money just poured in, and suddenly these shopping centers burst forth and office buildings. It's extraordinary.
Well, even right now, while the Kurds of Peshmerga are fighting ISIS out on the battlefield, if we went through Erbil right now, you'd see 6-star, 5-star hotels, you'd see beautiful parks, hospitals, restaurants, housing developments. What they've accomplished is, since the advent of the no-fly zone and with their economic law, is absolutely astonishing.
How did they learn that?
Well, first of all, it comes down through their heritage. The laws of the Medes and the Persians that we hear and read about in the Bible encourages private property, respect for law. That's the foundation of their heritage. Then, of course, they simply read economists. If you talk to their leaders, they've read Milton Friedman. They've read some of the Austrian economists. They've watched the economic experiments around the world. So when they had a chance to determine their own affairs, they didn't go socialist. They didn't go Ba'athist. They went free market. They went openness and freedom and libertarian, and it's paying for itself. It's proving itself.
Well, they've got the oil fields at Kirkuk, and there was they tried to export some of the. Are they getting the oil out now? Or are they? It was still claimed by the nation of Iraq as part of Iraq's money rather than the Kurds' money.
Sure. Every time there's some kind of an embargo with Iraq, as there has been through the years, it's a double embargo against the Kurds, because Baghdad is not very supportive of the Kurds. They don't pass Western aid on to the Kurds. So the Kurds have had to go it alone. And that may be one of the few really wonderful things about what's happening now, is that since the Kurds are on the forefront against ISIS, the West is having to realize we can't run our supplies and our support through the corrupt and divided Baghdad. We'll have to supply the Kurds directly. And finally, the U.S. is getting that message.
One of the leader of Iraq just said, I don't want any foreign troops in my country. And that included the U.S. I mean, he's anti-American.
Yes, there's no question.
But yeah, go ahead.
We just tend to choose the wrong friends in the Middle East.
All right, let's talk about Kurdistan. There's a huge population of Kurds in Syria, big population in Turkey, and a very big population in Iraq. Right now, Kurdistan is that little enclave around Erbil, which is under siege. When are the major powers, do you think, ever going to come together and say, okay, they ought to have their own country and bring them all together?
There probably is not going to be a consensus anytime soon, but the U.S. ought to take the lead here. The Kurds surprise us because they are pro-Western, pro-democracy, largely pro-Israel. Their version of Islam, even though they're 97% Muslim, is moderate. They have women on the Supreme Court. There's a Christian department within their government. It's astonishing. And so I think the U.S., if the U.S. will take the lead, support them directly, and call for nationhood, I think we'll see it happen much faster.
Steve, in my heart, there is no question Iraq is a failed state. It is put together after World War I. It is an arbitrary assembly by the European powers, and these people deserve their own country. There's no question. But the thing is, it's so interesting. You love being there. They killed you with kindness. I've never seen such hospitable people.
They are welcoming. They have a sense of covenant. A lot of what we read in Scripture about the way a meal was a covenantal experience. This is how the Kurds live. They bring gifts. They are. I wish every American could spend some time in Kurdistan when this ISIS crisis is over. They'll be amazed by these people.
Well, they just overwhelmed you with kindness.
They did. When gunfire happened at one point, they threw their bodies on me to protect me. They welcomed me in their homes. They're constantly inviting you to a wedding or a new feast. It would be an honor for us, they say all the time. You just become endeared to them, and I certainly did.
Well, this book is more of a love story than it is a novel, but I'm
proud of that.
It's good reading. It's called The Miracle of the Kurds, and I tell you, in my heart, I know it's the answer to the mess that's there in Iraq and Iran. And if the United States took its head out of the sand, they'd say, let's get those people together for their own country as fast as we can and give them all the help we can, and we'd have a strong ally in the Middle East, a lot stronger than the new Iraq, and certainly a lot stronger than Turkey or Iran and Syria.
No question about it. And I want to say to you, too, that they really respect you for having stood with them through the years. The Kurds don't have a lot of friends, but they know they have one in Pat Robertson, and I personally appreciate that as well.
Without question. Just something in my heart that just goes out to them. They're just wonderful people, and I hope that oil stuff succeeds. They've got a big field in Kirkuk.
Yes.
Whatever happened to that refinery? ISIS took it over. Did they get it? The Kurds get it back?
The Kurds took it back.
They took it back?
They took it back.
Well, God bless them.
Yeah, they're good. They're fierce warriors, very skilled, very gifted. All we need to do is support them.
Stephen, thank you for your work and appreciate this book. It's very interesting.